What if I told you that one of the most sanctioned countries on Earth, a nation isolated for decades, surrounded by enemies, pressure, and constant threats, did not collapse, but instead built one of the most resilient military and political systems in the modern world? This is not the story of sudden success. This is the story of patience, survival, and long-term power. This is the story of Iran under Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. If you want deep history that explains today's world, make sure to stay with this video. The moment Iran stood at the edge. In 1989, Iran was exhausted. 8 years of brutal war with Iraq had ended, leaving cities damaged, the economy drained, and an entire generation shaped by conflict. Millions were dead or injured. Infrastructure was broken. The country was under international pressure. Then came another shock. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, the revolutionary leader who had defined Iran since 1979, died. For the Islamic Republic, this was a moment of uncertainty. Many outside Iran believed the system would weaken. Some believed it might even fall apart. Inside Iran, power had to be reorganized quickly. The unexpected supreme leader. Ali Khamenei was not the obvious choice. He was not the most powerful cleric. He was not the most respected religious authority, and he did not have the overwhelming charisma of Khomeini. What he did have was experience. He had served as Iran's president during some of the hardest years in the country's history. He understood war, pressure, and internal politics. And most importantly, he understood how the system actually worked. When he became supreme leader in 1989, many assumed he would be symbolic. Instead, he would become one of the longest ruling leaders in modern Middle Eastern history. A country that learned from war. The Iran-Iraq War left one lesson burned into Iran's strategic thinking. Dependence is dangerous. During the war, Iran struggled to buy weapons. Sanctions limited access to spare parts. Foreign suppliers cut deals and then disappeared. Khamenei absorbed this lesson deeply. From the beginning of his leadership, Iran would move towards self-reliance, especially in defense. Not because it wanted war, but because it never wanted to be helpless again. Redefining power. Iran could not compete with the United States or NATO in conventional terms. It could not build aircraft carriers like America. It could not afford massive air forces like Western powers. So Iran chose a different path. Instead of matching strength, it focused on changing the battlefield. This meant missiles instead of bombers, drones instead of expensive fighter jets, speedboats instead of large naval fleets, influence instead of occupation. This approach would quietly reshape Iran's position in the region. The rise of the IRGC. One institution became central to this transformation, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, known as the IRGC. Originally created to protect the revolution, the IRGC expanded far beyond its original role. Under Khamenei, it became a powerful military force and major intelligence organization, a key player in Iran's economy, and a tool for projecting influence abroad. Unlike traditional armies, the IRGC answered directly to the supreme leader. This loyalty would become critical. Surviving isolation. Throughout the 1990s, Iran faced increasing isolation. Sanctions tightened. Diplomatic pressure grew. Western media portrayed Iran as unstable and dangerous. Yet internally, Iran adapted. Local industries developed. Black market supply chains formed. Military engineers learned to reverse engineer foreign technology. What could not be imported was rebuilt at home. Slowly, Iran stopped waiting for permission to survive. Religion and the state. Under Khamenei, religion remained central, but it became more institutional. Islam was not only belief, it was structure. Religious authority supported political legitimacy. Political power protected religious institutions. This fusion created stability but also control. Criticism was limited. Opposition was monitored. Dissent was managed carefully. For the leadership, unity was security. The long strategy takes shape. Unlike leaders focused on short-term popularity, Khamenei played a long game. Decades, not years. Iran would not rush. It would absorb pressure. It would outlast enemies. This patience became one of Iran's most underestimated strengths. A different kind of development. Iran's development under Khamenei was not measured only in wealth. It was measured in strategic depth, military deterrence, political survival, and regional relevance. The goal was simple: never be easy to defeat, never be easy to ignore. The foundation of modern Iran. By the end of the 1990s, Iran was no longer the fragile state many had expected. It was not rich, it was not open, but it was resilient, and that resilience would soon reshape the Middle East. Missiles, militias, and the expansion of Iranian power. By the early 2000s, Iran had quietly entered a new phase. The Islamic Republic was no longer focused only on survival. Under Ali Khamenei, the state had stabilized enough to think beyond its borders. The question was no longer, can Iran survive? The question became, how can Iran protect itself in a hostile world? The answer was influence. Building power without invasion. Iran understood something crucial. Direct military confrontation with the United States or its allies would be disastrous. Iran could not win a traditional war. So instead of fighting enemies directly, Iran focused on shaping the environment around them. This strategy became known as asymmetric warfare. Rather than tanks and bombers, Iran invested in missiles, drones, intelligence networks, local allies, and proxy forces. This approach allowed Iran to project power without declaring war. The missile strategy. Missiles became the backbone of Iran's deterrence. Unable to buy modern aircraft in large numbers, Iran focused on something cheaper, more flexible, and harder to stop: ballistic missiles. Under Khamenei's leadership, Iran developed short-range missiles for regional defense, medium-range missiles capable of reaching U.S. bases in the Middle East, precision-guided systems designed to bypass traditional air defenses. These missiles were not meant for daily use. They were meant to change calculations. Any enemy planning an attack now had to consider retaliation. This alone reshaped Iran's strategic position. The rise of drones. While much of the world focused on jets and tanks, Iran quietly invested in unmanned systems. Drones were cheap. They were difficult to track. They could be produced domestically. Over time, Iran built a wide drone arsenal: surveillance drones, attack drones, long-range systems capable of crossing borders. These drones were not only for Iran's own military, they became tools of influence. Iran began supplying drone technology to allied groups across the region, multiplying its reach. The IRGC Quds Force. At the center of Iran's regional strategy was a specialized branch of the IRGC, the Quds Force. Its mission was not conventional war. Its mission was influence, coordination, and long-term positioning. Under commanders like Qasem Soleimani, the Quds Force built relationships across the Middle East. They did not occupy countries. They embedded themselves into existing conflicts. This approach allowed Iran to gain leverage without formal control. Iran's regional network. Over time, Iran developed strong ties with key allies and aligned groups. In Lebanon, Hezbollah became one of the most powerful non-state military forces in the world. In Iraq, Iranian influence grew through political parties and militias after the fall of Saddam Hussein. In Syria, Iran supported the Assad government during the civil war, securing a strategic corridor to the Mediterranean. In Yemen, Iran backed groups opposing Saudi influence, expanding pressure on its regional rivals. This network was not accidental. It was built slowly, carefully, and strategically. Why this strategy worked. Iran's approach confused many observers. Western powers expected clear fronts, clear enemies, clear declarations. Instead, they faced something different. Iran's power was distributed, not centralized. There was no single target to destroy, no headquarters that could end the strategy overnight. Even under heavy sanctions, Iran's influence continued. Sanctions and adaptation. Sanctions intensified throughout the 2000s and 2010s. Iran's economy suffered, inflation rose, access to global markets shrank. But sanctions also forced innovation. Domestic industries expanded, military research accelerated, alternative trade networks formed with countries willing to bypass Western systems. Iran did not become wealthy, but it became harder to isolate completely. Friends and partners. Despite isolation from the West, Iran was never truly alone. It strengthened ties with Russia, China, Syria, and Venezuela, and non-aligned states seeking alternatives to US-led systems. These relationships were not based on ideology alone. They were based on shared interests, opposition to US dominance, a desire for strategic balance, mutual economic benefits. Over time, Iran positioned itself as a key player in a multipolar world. Control at home. While expanding influence abroad, Khamenei focused on stability home. The state maintained tight control over media, political movements, and security institutions. Protests occurred, sometimes violently, but the system held. For the leadership, internal unity was essential to resisting external pressure. The image of strength. By the late 2010s, Iran had transformed its global image. It was no longer seen simply as a revolutionary state. It was seen as a persistent strategic actor, not easily defeated, not easily ignored. This transformation was not dramatic, it was gradual, and it was intentional. A new balance of power. Iran did not replace the United States as a global power. That was never the goal. Instead, Iran forced stronger nations to adapt to it. Military planners adjusted, diplomats reconsidered, regional rivals recalculated. That alone was a form of success. The shadow of the future. As Iran entered the 2020s, its position was clear. It remained under pressure. It remained controversial, but it was no longer weak. The system Ali Khamenei helped build had endured war, sanctions, and internal unrest, and it was still standing.
Iran versus the United States. Nuclear pressure, shadow war, and the modern era. By the late 2000s, Iran's rise could no longer be ignored. Its influence stretched across the Middle East. Its missiles could reach regional adversaries. Its allies shaped conflicts from Lebanon to Yemen. But one issue began to dominate everything else: Iran's nuclear program. The nuclear question. Iran insisted its nuclear program was peaceful. Energy, medical research, scientific progress. But the United States and its allies saw something more dangerous. The concern was not just a nuclear weapon. It was what nuclear capability would mean in the hands of a regional power already expanding its influence. For Washington, this was a red line. For Tehran, it was a matter of sovereignty. Escalating pressure. Sanctions intensified dramatically. Iran was cut off from international banking systems, oil markets, foreign investment. The goal was clear: force Iran to change course. The impact was severe. Iran's currency lost value. Living costs soared. Ordinary citizens felt the pressure more than political elites. Yet Iran did not collapse. Instead, the leadership framed resistance as national pride. The shadow war begins. As diplomacy stalled, conflict moved into the shadows. This was not a war of armies. It was a war of intelligence agencies, cyber units, and covert operations. Iranian nuclear scientists were assassinated. Facilities suffered mysterious explosions. Cyber attacks disrupted infrastructure. Iran responded in kind. Cyber operations targeted foreign systems. Allied militias increased pressure on U.S. forces in the region. Naval incidents occurred in the Persian Gulf. No side declared war, but both sides were fighting. The Iran deal. In 2015, a breakthrough occurred. Iran and world powers signed the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, known as the Iran nuclear deal. Iran agreed to limit its nuclear activities. Sanctions were eased. For a brief moment, tension dropped. Iran gained access to frozen funds. Oil exports increased. Diplomacy replaced confrontation. But the agreement was fragile. Collapse of trust. In 2018, the United States withdrew from the deal. Sanctions returned, stronger than before. From Iran's perspective, the message was clear. Agreements with the West could be reversed at any time. Trust evaporated. Iran gradually reduced compliance with the deal's limits. The cycle of pressure resumed. The killing of Qasem Soleimani. In January 2020, the conflict reached a dramatic turning point. Qasem Soleimani, commander of Iran's Quds Force, was killed in a U.S. drone strike. He was one of the most powerful figures in Iran's regional strategy. His death shocked the country. Millions attended his funeral. The leadership vowed revenge. Iran responded with missile strikes on U.S. bases in Iraq. No Americans were killed, but the message was unmistakable. Iran was willing to strike directly, carefully, but openly. A new era of deterrence. After Soleimani's death, something changed. Both sides stepped back from direct escalation. The risk had become too high. Instead, the conflict settled into a new phase. Cyber operations, proxy pressure, economic warfare, strategic signaling. This became the new normal. Military modernization continued. Despite sanctions, Iran continued upgrading its forces. Missile accuracy improved. Drone range expanded. Naval capabilities adapted for asymmetric conflict. Iran could not match U.S. power head-on, but it did not need to. Its goal was to raise the cost of confrontation beyond what enemies were willing to pay. Domestic challenges. At home, Iran faced growing pressure. Economic hardship fueled protests. Young generations demanded opportunity. Social restrictions became increasingly contested. The leadership responded with control rather than reform. For Khamenei, stability remained the priority. Any sign of weakness could invite foreign pressure. Friends in a changing world. As global power shifted, Iran found opportunity. Closer cooperation with Russia deepened. China became a crucial economic partner. Energy deals and infrastructure projects expanded. Iran positioned itself as part of a world moving away from U.S.-dominated systems. This alignment did not remove sanctions, but it reduced isolation. Iran today. By the early 2020s, Iran stood transformed, not prosperous, not universally admired, but resilient. Its military was stronger than at any point in its modern history. Its regional influence remained intact. Its political system, though strained, endured. Ali Khamenei's long rule had shaped a country built for resistance. The final balance. Iran did not defeat its enemies, but it survived them. In international politics, survival itself can be victory. Through patience, adaptation, and strategic calculation, Iran carved out space in a hostile world. The struggle between Iran and the United States did not end. It simply evolved. And in that evolution, Iran proved one thing beyond doubt. It was no longer a nation that could be pushed aside.
By the time Ali Khamenei entered the final phase of his leadership, Iran was no longer the fragile revolutionary state he had inherited decades earlier. It was hardened, experienced, built to endure pressure. But endurance came at a cost. The system Khamenei built. Ali Khamenei did not rule like a traditional dictator. He ruled through a system. Power was spread across the Supreme Leader's Office, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, religious institutions, security and intelligence networks. No single institution could challenge him alone. Together, they formed a structure designed for stability, not flexibility.
This system prioritized ideological loyalty over innovation, security over openness, control over experimentation. It ensured survival but limited growth. The military as the backbone. Under Khamenei, the military became more than a defense force. It became an economic actor, a political influence, a guarantor of regime survival. The IRGC expanded into construction, energy, telecommunications, strategic industries. This blurred the line between state, military, and economy. For supporters, this created resilience. For critics, it entrenched corruption and inefficiency. Weapons without war. Iran's military strategy matured into a doctrine of deterrence. It avoided direct confrontation with superior forces. Instead, it relied on missile saturation, drone warfare, proxy alliances, geographic choke points. Iran did not seek victory through invasion. It sought to make victory impossible for its enemies. This approach worked. Despite decades of pressure, no foreign power dared launch a full-scale war against Iran. Friends, not allies. Iran's international relationships were pragmatic, not sentimental. Russia cooperated when interests aligned. China invested where profitable. Regional allies followed Iran's lead because it offered protection and support. These were partnerships of necessity. Iran did not depend on one patron. It diversified relationships to avoid vulnerability. This strategic flexibility became one of Khamenei's greatest achievements. The economic paradox. Iran developed advanced weapons, but struggled to provide prosperity. Sanctions played a role, so did mismanagement. A young, educated population faced high unemployment, inflation, and limited opportunity. This created a dangerous contradiction, a strong state with dissatisfied citizens. The generational challenge. Iran's population changed dramatically under Khamenei. Most Iranians were born after the revolution. They did not remember the Shah. They did not experience the revolution's ideals firsthand. Their demands were different: jobs, freedom, connection to the world. The leadership responded cautiously, sometimes harshly. Khamenei believed that opening too fast could destroy everything built over decades. History, in his view, rewarded patience, not risk. Protests and control. Protests erupted periodically. Some were economic, some social, some political. Each time, the state reasserted control. Security forces remained loyal. Institutions held. This demonstrated strength, but also fragility. A system that relies on control must constantly maintain it. Succession, the biggest question. As Khamenei aged, the question of succession loomed. Iran's system was designed to survive its founder, but transitions are dangerous moments. Potential futures include continuity through a similar supreme leader, increased military influence, gradual institutional reform, or internal power struggles. No outcome is guaranteed. What is certain is that Iran after Khamenei will not be the same Iran before him. Iran in the next decade. Looking forward, Iran faces three defining paths: adaptation, reforming economically while preserving political control; resistance, doubling down on isolation and self-reliance; transformation, a slow internal evolution driven by demographics rather than revolution. Khamenei prepared the system for resistance. Whether it can adapt remains unknown. The final verdict on Khamenei. Ali Khamenei will not be remembered as a charismatic leader. He will be remembered as a survivor. Under his rule, Iran avoided collapse, built a powerful military, expanded regional influence, withstood sustained global pressure, but also restricted freedoms, struggled economically, created deep generational divides.
His legacy is not one of triumph or failure, it is one of endurance. The lasting impact. Iran today is not what the world expected decades ago. It did not become a liberal democracy. It did not collapse under sanctions. It did not submit to pressure. Instead, it adapted, slowly, stubbornly, strategically. Khamenei shaped a nation that learned how to survive in isolation. Whether that survival becomes a foundation for prosperity or a permanent state of tension will be decided by those who follow him. Conclusion. Ali Khamenei's Iran is not defined by what it achieved, but by what it endured. In a world that tried repeatedly to break it, Iran remained standing. That alone makes his rule one of the most consequential leadership eras in modern Middle Eastern history.